The high plains of eastern Wyoming. This desolate, barren landscape of rolling hills is known for its large population of pronghorn antelope, numerous windmills, and oil wells. But by far the most impressive sight are the numerous coal mines in the Powder River Basin and the legions of coal trains coming and going from these enormous operations. We'll be visiting one of the largest pits to see how coal is unearthed, excavated, transported, crushed, and loaded into rail cars. But the stars of this show are the coal trains, and scenes like this are what it's all about. Train after train, pulling long strings of hopper cars, lumber over these rolling hills. Loaded trains haul away thousands of tons of Wyoming black gold to users around the country. Like a powerful magnet, the sheer volume of rail traffic is staggering, and it's a force that draws rail fans by the hundreds. So after that enticing introduction, one may be asking, just where is this famous Powder River Basin located? How accessible is it? And what will I see if I go there? Well, taking a look at the entirety of Wyoming, the Union Pacific Main Line stretches east-west across the state. Two sets of Burlington Northern Santa Fe tracks also cross a section of the state, but in a different direction. The Powder River Basin is found in the eastern portion of Wyoming between the two BNSF lines. Taking a closer look at this area, we see that BNSF's Oren subdivision traverses the length of the basin. The distance from Donkey Creek to Shawnee Junction is 117 miles. Union Pacific operates over the line from Shawnee Junction all the way up to the mines at the north end of the Oren sub. Therefore, when viewing trains operating over the central and northern portions of the sub, it's possible to see loaded trains meeting one another and also empty trains meeting one another while moving in opposite directions. In 1990, Pentrex produced a program about Powder River coal trains. Much has changed since then, and we wanted to update that show. Back then it was Burlington Northern and Chicago Northwestern that operated over the line. Legions of BN SD40-2s and C30-7s powered trains in those days, and we watch as 5 units head out of the basin. The number of locomotives per train has changed too. With today's more powerful units, one no longer sees 5 diesels on the point. And can you believe it? Back then, DPUs weren't on the rear of trains, and many actually had cabooses. The color yellow has changed too. Chicago Northwestern's fleet of nearly new C40-8s and SD60s today wear a slightly different shade of yellow paint. Now, those were the days on the Northwestern, but mergers, track expansion, and additional mining have combined to change the look of the Powder River Basin. Where there was once just single track and portions of double track, today there's double track and many miles of triple track to accommodate ever-increasing levels of traffic. But one thing that hasn't changed is the thrill of watching train after train labor across the basin while meeting other trains. As you'll soon see, there are often 2, 3, or even more trains visible at a time. Now, this is a train watcher's paradise. Before heading into the field, we'll take an up-close look at the Oren sub. Running in a north to south direction, Mile 0 is located at Donkey Creek, junction with the BNSF Black Hill sub. 15 miles south, the line encounters the first of many mine spurs at Caballo Junction. Over the next 11 miles, several spurs depart the main to loop through loading silos. Well-known mines here include Caballo, Bel Air, Caballo Rojo, Cordero, and Coal Creek. BNSF operates a helper district on the 1.5% grade from a spot near Caballo Junction at Mile 16 north to the summit near Mile 10. South of here, the Oren sub reaches Reno Junction at Mile 43. The tracks are fairly straight along this portion of the line with little curvature. Black Thunder Spur sees a multitude of train movements headed to and from Jacobs Ranch and the huge Black Thunder mines. Secondary roads running east from Wyoming Highway 59 lead to the tracks, and some follow the tracks, making for easy access. Since our last visit, a new mine was built in the vicinity of East Reno. It's named North Rochelle. South of here, the line passes through several sharp curves, making it a rather scenic area. At Naco Junction near Mile 62, traffic to and from North Antelope Mine and Rochelle Mine keep this a busy location. Just south is Converse Junction, with a spur leading west to Antelope Mine. More curves and the long 1% grade over Logan Hill are highlights of this portion of the Orin Sub. The remaining 40 miles lack coal mining activity, but see loaded trains fight several 1% grades until reaching mile 109. From there to Shawnee Junction and on to Bridger Junction, it's all downhill on a 1% grade. Bill is an interesting place along this portion of the line. The holding yard is owned by Union Pacific and is a crew change point for their crews. Union Pacific trains depart and enter the Orin Sub at Shawnee Junction. BNSF trains continue on to Bridger Junction, where most are routed onto the Canyon Sub for points south and east. Flat Top Road and Bill Hall Road are two places where there's easy access to the tracks. Enough about the region, let's get to the trains. Just north of Shawnee Junction, 10,274-foot Laramie Peak is resplendent in beautiful morning light. But Wyoming's rangeland can be desolate and sparse-looking too, like this view of an abandoned homestead. We're set up at the grade crossing of Bill Hall Road as a westbound empty train encounters the S-curve at mile 113. The train is headed compass north to Cordero Mine, 91 miles up the Orin Sub. This train originated at a power plant near Iola, Texas, a wide spot in the road not far from College Station, in the east-central portion of the state. Many changes have taken place in the Powder River Basin since Pentrex last visited here in 1990. One of those changes is the use of DPU, or distributed power. These trailing locomotives are radio-controlled from the lead diesel at the head of the train, and as you'll see, they're a common sight these days. Right on the heels of our first train is another empty movement. It's also headed to Cordero Mine and came from Amarillo, Texas. These three Grinstein Green SD70s are looking somewhat shabby and could use a new coat of paint. This train also originated in Texas, but much further north at Amarillo. Both trains, however, traveled the same route to get to the Powder River Basin. They came across northeast New Mexico and Trinchera Pass into Colorado. From there, they came up the joint line through Denver and on north through Cheyenne. As the northbound clears the curve, a loaded train is seen approaching at a slow rate of speed. It'll be stopping to meet yet one more northbound empty. This is the third northbound to pass our location in just a matter of minutes. This is called fleeting and is an efficient method used to dispatch a number of trains through an area in a short period of time. They run right behind one another with just enough space between trains to keep a clear indication displayed on the signals. We learned that the crew aboard this loaded Springfield, Missouri-bound train has reached their hours of service. The North Antelope loads will remain here until a fresh crew has been delivered. It'll be a while before they arrive, so we elect to move on. At mile 110, we set up away from the tracks to shoot eastbound Union Pacific loads across the open expanse of the high plains. Laramie Peak looms to our southwest, and although it appears to be near, it's actually over 40 miles away. As mentioned earlier, Union Pacific and BNSF share these tracks. The UP train meets one of the company's empty trains headed to the mines north of here. Loads pass empties in a never-ending cycle that's repeated over and over again in the Powder River Basin. The head end pops into view as it passes the DPU locomotives. From this view, it's easy to see that the train's running upgrade. A mile north, we set up on an overpass where Flat Top Road crosses the tracks. A loaded train crests the grade, dispelling any misconceived ideas that eastern Wyoming is flat. The engineer will soon move the throttle to idle and then slide the lever forward to engage dynamic brakes as the train starts downgrade. The undulating terrain keeps engineers alert in order to prevent slack run-ins or knuckle-breaking pull-aparts. These hoppers were loaded at North Antelope Mine and are destined for a power plant at Newark, Arkansas, located in the northern part of the state along the Whitewater River. As the rear unit rolls by, the humming and howling noise tells us that dynamic brakes are indeed being utilized. Taking advantage of the overpass, we view a meet between two more Union Pacific trains. These loads originated at Antelope Mine and are headed to a rail-to-barge transloading facility at Cora Dock, Jackson County, Illinois. Cora is on the Mississippi River south of Chester. The coal will make its way to a power plant that has no rail access and is located along a major river. The empty train is coming from West Labadie, Missouri, and is headed to Black Thunder Mine for loading. At mile 95, the tracks cross Wyoming Highway 59 on this modern bridge. One of the area's old windmills stands sentinel over the scene. The state's other natural resource, oil, is not as plentiful as coal. Most of the wells were not being pumped during our visit, but they do operate when the price of oil goes up. A lark bunting views its domain from a fence post, perhaps waiting for the next train to pass as we view another idle rig in the distance. Our thoughtful moment is soon shattered by the sound of an approaching train as locomotives pull hard for a grade that starts here and runs south to our previous location at Flat Top Road. This train was loaded at Black Thunder Mine and is headed to another rail-to-barge transloading facility, this one at Cook Terminal near Metropolis, Illinois. Metropolis is situated near the southern tip of Illinois, not far from the confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. Cook Terminal is a huge facility where Wyoming coal can be blended with higher sulfur eastern coal. One of the primary reasons Powder River coal is in such high demand is its low sulfur, high BTU properties, and the fact that it can be mined less expensively. While this is definitely not mountain railroading, numerous 1% grades provide a fair amount of resistance, causing trains to slow as locomotives labor intensely when pulling heavy consists over the hills. A high rail vehicle follows the train on the other track. With hundreds of daily movements, it's necessary to frequently inspect trackage and to quickly dispatch crews to perform necessary maintenance. Near mile 91, a loaded train comes down grade to cross over Box Creek. A pan across the horizon shows how the tracks come down grade to cross the creek and then climb out of the watershed. South of Bill, we set up on a newly constructed overpass to view the PLM car maintenance facility. This company always has a large number of coal hoppers on hand, waiting for a trip through the maintenance shop. At the time of our visit, Union Pacific was still in the process of repainting many of its Southern Pacific and Chicago Northwestern diesels. This former CNW AC 4400 remains in the attractive paint scheme, but has been patched with a UP shield and number. Loaded at North Rochelle, the train is headed to an AEP power plant at Welch, Texas. The train will be handed over to Kansas City Southern at Kansas City and travel over their tracks to Shreveport, Louisiana. From there, it'll head west to the plant located near Pittsburgh, Texas. As the Kansas City-bound train disappears into the distance, a BNSF empty is seen heading our way. This one's headed to Black Thunder Mine from Mill, Texas, a small town in the Panhandle located east of Clovis, New Mexico. Hundreds of swallows live under the overpasses all along the Orange Sub, and the birds can be seen as they buzz past the camera. We've gotten so used to seeing DPUs on the rear of these trains that it seems like something's missing as the last car rolls by. Bill is the home to Union Pacific's crew headquarters. The storage tracks here hold trains waiting for crews to come off required rest. However, trains won't sit here long as the demand for coal keeps them moving to destinations around the country. Not all UP trains stop at Bill, as evidenced by this one bypassing the yard. These loads originated at North Antelope Mine, and the train is headed to Hearne, Texas. These BNSF empties are headed to Caballo Rojo Mine and originated a short distance away at Moba, Wyoming, about 80 miles south of here. While in Bill, we take a moment to view the facilities. This building was constructed by Chicago Northwestern in 1984 for use as a crew change headquarters. Back then, there was literally nothing around, so it was necessary to build a dorm and food service facility for employees. Since the merger in 1995, it's been operated by Union Pacific. Crews wait to board a train. They operate empties from here to a mine and then return loaded trains to Bill. They also operate from here to South Morrill, Nebraska, the next crew stop east. The water tank once displayed a CNW Herald, but that's been replaced by the familiar UP shield. Track maintenance gangs and inspectors also operate out of here. Our attention is once again drawn to the tracks as a train comes roaring by. Just north of the UP facility, we view an empty as it rounds the sweeping curve at West Bill. Hearing something behind us, we turn to see a loaded train as it slowly approaches our position. We're hopeful for a meet right in front of us. While it didn't work out as well as anticipated, we still get a good view of the two trains. The loads are from Black Thunder and are headed to Weston, Wisconsin. They'll be delivered by Canadian National's Wisconsin Central Division. To reach the interchange point at New Brighton, Minnesota, the train will take the spine line north from Nevada, Iowa, up to St. Paul, and then on to New Brighton. The empty train originated on Canadian National Illinois Central and was handed over to UP at Newton, Illinois. This movement is headed to Antelope Mine. Both trains will be stopping for a quick crew change. From here north, the line encounters more curvature, the first junctions leading to mine loops and two long grades. The first and most prominent is Logan Hill. Southbound loads really have their work cut out for them on this 7-mile, 1.3% grade from NACO Junction to the summit. Trains headed north from NACO encounter even more curvature and a 1% grade up to the summit at mile 55. The first mine loop is found at Converse Junction and will spend time here and at NACO. This is the summit at Logan Hill as viewed from the Steckley Road overpass. This lofty vantage point provides a great place to watch and listen as diesels pour on the power to get over the obstacle. Triple track is a testament to the fact that it's also a place where major congestion can occur. The hill was originally single-tracked, later doubled, and when that didn't work, one more lane was added. As we watch the Caballo to White Bluff, Arkansas loads roll under the overpass, notice that a train race of sorts is about to unfold. In the distance, another loaded train is making its way up Logan Hill. At the same time, the tail end of a BNSF empty is viewed as it rolls downhill. With better than half the train now over the summit, the cars pick up speed. The following train is just reaching the crest, so we'll have a clear view of the head end as it passes. A nice-looking locomotive is on the point, too. It's a former CNW unit, still dressed in its beautiful paint scheme. This is one of the famous Red Rock, Oklahoma trains, which has just finished loading at Antelope Mine. Why famous? We've featured this train in several Pentrex videos. The interesting thing about this train is its operational pattern. After arriving in Topeka, Kansas, the power is run around and coupled onto the other end. The train then heads south to Emporia, Kansas, where it gets onto the old Santa Fe main to Augusta. From there, it heads down the Arkansas sub to Arkansas City, Kansas, crosses into Oklahoma, and then arrives at the Oklahoma Gas and Electric Power Plant at Red Rock. Before all of the recent mergers, the train once changed power from UP to Santa Fe diesels at Topeka. The next stop is Converse Junction. Upon arrival, trains appear everywhere. A loaded UP movement is well into its climb up Logan Hill. Converse is the junction where trains arrive and depart the Antelope Mine Spur and Loop. The mine is out of sight to the left. In the foreground, a train of empties rolls onto the mine loop to begin loading. Loads are eased toward the main, but this train will wait for a new crew before departing for Rawhide Energy in Colorado. Aware that mainline movements are headed our way, the camera is pointed towards NACO Junction, 3 miles away. A UP train is passing a BNSF empty that's waiting to load at Rochelle Mine. Another loaded UP train is also seen in the distance, and it's ready to depart North Antelope Mine at NACO. We'll view that train in a few minutes. Black Thunder Mine to Gentleman, Nebraska loads past the rear DPU locomotive on the BNSF empty as the UP Power nears the sweeping curve at Converse. The huge Gerald Gentleman Power Plant is located near Sutherland, Nebraska. It's interesting to note that originally only Burlington Northern served this coal-fired power plant. In 1994, a spur was built from the UP main across the Platte River to gain access to the facility. The plant can burn up to 800 tons of coal an hour and is the second most efficient plant in the country. Luck appears to be with us once again as another train race unfolds. A Jacobs Ranch to Labadie, Missouri movement is hot on the heels of the Gentleman loads. At NACO Junction, we've set up alongside a bridge spanning Antelope Creek. The NACO Junction switch is located at the north end of the bridge to the left. From there, a track leads to the mine loops at Rochelle and North Antelope. Remember that Union Pacific train spotted way off in the distance as viewed from Converse Junction? This is it, pulling off the spur and onto the Orange Sub Main. The train had loaded at North Antelope and is headed to New Madrid, Missouri, a power plant located along the banks of the Mississippi River near Sikeston. The spur swings to the east and loaded hoppers are viewed as they roll away from the mine and toward the main. As the train continues to enter the main, its speed is restricted since its cars are still passing through the NACO Junction switches. A speedier train rushes past on the main as it sprints toward Converse Junction and Logan Hill. This train was loaded at Bel Air Mine, and it too is headed for the Big Gentleman Power Plant near Sutherland, Nebraska. We're shooting from the west side of the tracks, north of West NACO at mile 61, as eastbound BNSF loads split the signal and round the sharp curve. Another BNSF train is spotted in the distance, waiting for its turn to enter the mine spur at NACO. This train loaded at North Rochelle, a mine that didn't exist when we last visited, and is headed to Superior, Wisconsin. It'll travel through the Sand Hills to Lincoln, Nebraska, and then north to Minnesota. This shot of Antelope Mine is available from public property and is from alongside Antelope Road. The mine is owned by Kennecott Energy and is set up like most other mines. Two enormous concrete silos permit two trains to load at the same time. A heavy-haul mine truck capable of handling 260 tons of coal is on its way from the pit to the crusher. This view shows the area that's currently being worked. Locomotives on an empty train can be seen in the distance above the pit. From here north, loaded trains tackle 5 miles of 1% grade. The steeper hills then subside, but it's in no way flat country. The new mine at North Rochelle is situated on the east side of the tracks. The highlight of this area is Reno Junction and the incredibly huge complex of Black Thunder and Jacobs Ranch mines. We'll view several trains at Reno Junction before heading over to Black Thunder for a fascinating tour of that enormous facility. Set up now at Reno Junction, the storage silos at Black Thunder can be seen in the distance. This loaded train has just departed Jacobs Ranch Mine and is headed down the spur toward Reno Junction. We'll follow its movements as it comes off the spur and onto the main line. The head end passes through junction switches to enter the main. As the Ladue, Missouri-bound train passes through the crossovers at mile 43.6, we see that another meet is about to occur. The head end rounds the curve to enter Black Thunder Spur. This train originated on Norfolk Southern at Monroe, Michigan. It was interchanged with BNSF at Cicero, Illinois, near Chicago. Looking behind us now, we view the train as it heads up the spur toward Black Thunder. Pulling out and panning to the left reveals the rest of the train still passing through the junction. Moving down to track level, we view two more movements passing through Reno Junction. This train is headed to Bel Air Mine from Managua, Colorado, location of a power plant south of Pueblo. Running right behind the BNSF empties, a UP movement is pleated north. This train originated at White Bluff, Arkansas, and is headed to Caballo, the northernmost mine on the Orin Sub. Relocating to the Black Thunder Spur, a BNSF empty from Amarillo, Texas is viewed as its ease toward Black Thunder Mine for loading. The UP train has just completed a run around the loading loop and will be recrewed before departing. Trains appear everywhere, giving credence to the fact that Black Thunder is a very busy place. About now, you're probably wondering when we're going to show you mining activity and coal being loaded into hopper cars. Rejoice, the wait is over. Black Thunder is big. Owned by Arch Coal Company of St. Louis, Missouri, this massive facility is the largest single-owned strip mine in the world. Mining began here in 1977, and each year, Black Thunder loads more than 65 million tons of coal. That figure represents 5% of all coal mined in the United States. That's impressive. Dozens of trains load here each and every day, 24/7. As one train loads, two more wait their turn to pass under the silos, and three more trains wait behind these. Big. Both Union Pacific and BNSF load here, which is common at most mines in Powder River. The mining process begins with exploration. After coal seams are located, a drag line is dug to remove topsoil and rock, exposing the coal for extraction. Giant drag line shovels are used to remove the overburden. Black Thunder utilizes 4 of these monsters. This one is called Raisin Thunder and is the mine's newest model. It's a Marion 8750 and is equipped with a 335-foot boom and a 130 cubic yard bucket. This thing moves a lot of material. It doesn't take much effort for the gigantic machine to eat away at tons of rock and dirt. From the other side, we view the bucket as dirt is emptied into large piles. Once all of the coal has been removed from the drag line, this material will be reused in the reclamation process. Once the overburden is removed, coal is exposed and ready to be blasted. This fractures the material into smaller chunks, which eases the loading and transportation process. Holes have been drilled, and soon blasting prill will be pumped into them. An entire section, several hundred yards long, is blasted at once. Unfortunately, blasting was not scheduled on the day we visited. In the distance, we notice activity at the bottom of a pit. Large hydraulic excavators, loaders, and haul trucks are in continuous motion, removing coal from the seam. Moving to the bottom of a pit, large chunks of coal are viewed, left from a previous blast. This pile is near the excavating site. A loader works the seam, biting into the coal and coming up with another shovel load of black gold. A continuous parade of haul trucks are always in motion. This operation continues 24 hours a day. From a spot that was previously mined and now exposed, overburden can be seen laying on top of the coal. This particular seam is 50 feet thick. In some areas, coal can be up to 150 feet thick. This is incredible compared to Appalachian mining, where coal seams are often just several feet thick. It won't be long before this coal will be extracted and loaded aboard trains. Layers of dust and dirt cover the coal, hiding the natural beauty and luster of the black mineral. An up-close view shows coal being loaded into haul trucks. Black Thunder operates 2 different types of trucks. The yellow ones are the oldest models in the fleet and don't have the capacity of the newer ones. But these trucks are still vital to the operation and can carry 260 tons of coal. After a truck is loaded, it heads off to the dumper, where coal is emptied into the crusher. It doesn't take long before the next truck is in position for loading. There are times when 2 or 3 empty trucks are lined up waiting to load while another is in the process of being topped off. Here's the newest model of haul truck. These white trucks can carry 340 tons of coal per load. The new models have a hefty price tag of $2.6 million per truck. They feature a 2,700 horsepower, 16-cylinder diesel engine that generates power for electric motors on each axle. It's basically a locomotive on rubber tires and uses the same type of propulsion. The size of the truck is 48 feet long by 24 feet wide by 26 feet tall. Each tire stands 15 feet high. When the trucks are empty, they weigh 450,000 pounds. The coal from one load will fill 3 or 4 rail cars and heat an average home for 40 years. Now that's a lot of coal. Once a truck's been loaded, it heads to the dumper, and it's quite a struggle to climb the steep grade out of the pit. After leaving the pit, heavy haul trucks arrive at the dump site where coal is emptied into the crusher. This breaks up large chunks. The material is then transported by a long conveyor belt a couple miles to storage silos where it's loaded into rail cars. At the loading facility, conveyor belts rise to the top of a storage silo. Coal is fed into the massive bunker and then gravity fed into hopper cars. The silo has a capacity in excess of 20,000 tons, or approximately 70 truckloads. That's enough to fill a couple of normal-sized coal trains. At the bottom, rails pass through a tunnel, and trains slowly roll through here to load. This BNSF train from Sikeston, Missouri, symboled ESKS-BTM, is about to pull under the silo. It'll take over an hour for the entire train to be loaded. When all of the hoppers are full of Powder River coal and the train is ready to depart, it'll be given a new symbol, CBTM-SKS. The power continues to pull the train through the loader at 0.9 to 1.3 miles per hour. A device called a pace setter keeps the train rolling at such a slow rate of speed. Once the loading process begins, the train will remain in continuous motion. Before loading begins, the train must stop for the first car. This permits the loading crew to perform a test load to calibrate the scales. When calibration is complete, the train will begin to move at pace-setter speed to load. While the train is stopped, we move inside to learn how mine employee Tracy Hayden controls the loading.
In case something goes wrong, I have an E-stop. I can push that button and it'll close the gates, raise my chute up and get it out of the way, hopefully in time. This gate is what lowers my chute, raises my chute, and then this lever is the discharge gate. It just tells me when to open the gates up, or when I need to close it.
We're going to fix this door all up the train.
As far as the knob, the switches, this just brings my load and chute over into position. And the other two switches, I can manually fill my batch bin with those two switches. This switch over here, we have a set of weights that we use when we test our load cells to calibrate our bins. We know how much the weights actually weigh, so we can pick those up, and if it's reading right, we'll get the correct amount displayed on our scale. The green light just tells me the weigh cycle system's on. We can stop it, or we can skip cars.
The video display shows what's happening, and Tracy explains what we're viewing.
They're coming in empty. This is under my bin. This is under Dennis's bin. Right now I've got this car batched up. I've got 124.5 in there. Dennis, it'll take that into account, plus how much the car weighs. The car is the tare weight, 49,200, and then it'll add those two together, subtract it from 286,000. That'll determine how much is into the trim bin.
Once calibration is complete, train loading begins. There are actually two loaders, each with its own operator. The first operator loads the front portion of each car, and the second person finishes the job. We're viewing the first station and watch as the front half of a car is loaded. The long string of hoppers enters the silo empty and comes out the other side loaded. Once complete, the train will be free to release the pace-setter control and begin the long trip back to Sikeston, Missouri. The crew will have to call the dispatcher to receive permission to depart the mine before heading down the spur toward the main line. There's one more step in the mining process that's very important: reclamation. All land that's been stripped and mined must be returned to its natural condition. Black Thunder takes tremendous pride in its reclamation process, and rightfully so. This area was once mined, and a bulldozer dresses an area where mining's recently been completed. On the other side of the property, we view an area that was one of the first to be mined several years ago. It's hard to imagine that any mining had been done here. 21 species of native trees, shrubs, and grasses are seeded to reestablish the land as it once was. A monitoring program in cooperation with the University of Wyoming demonstrates that reclaimed lands produce about twice as much forage as native rangeland. Many forms of wildlife, including antelope, deer, elk, rabbits, fox, and more, have reestablished themselves on reclaimed lands and freely reproduce. Thunder Basin Coal Company, owner of Black Thunder, has received many national and state awards for its reclamation efforts. Over $24 million have been spent on replenishing topsoil, vegetation, and studying wildlife and archaeology. As you can see, antelope are numerous in Wyoming on reclaimed mine property. Back out on the main, we're set up north of Reno Junction near mile 37. This large hump in the tracks is another of the many grades found along the Orange Sub. This loaded train is cresting the hill in full throttle, but will soon be switching to dynamic brakes. The Caballo to Clayton, Wyoming train is coming to a screeching halt as it comes down grade. A red block ahead forces the train to wait for an oncoming movement to clear. Clayton is located a few miles east of Casper. The loaded Clayton-bound train gets its clear signal and begins to move as a Union Pacific empty begins climbing the grade. These empty cars are headed to Bel Air Mine from the Joppa Steam Plant in Joppa, Illinois, a large facility along the Ohio River west of Paducah, Kentucky. Many of the hoppers are stenciled with reporting marks JE, indicating they're railroad owned. The power plant operates a short line that connects the facility to the BNSF main. The railroad is called the Joppa and Eastern, hence the mark JE. Freight cars not owned by railroads always end with the letter X. A few minutes after the DPU crests the hill, another empty is fleeted north and roars up grade. The BNSF hoppers came from Moba, Wyoming, and are headed to Caballo Rojo. You may recall that we saw one of these trains earlier at East Bill. We discover an S-curve at mile 35.8. Off to the side, one of those Wyoming oil wells is actually working. Several trees, rare in these parts, surround the rig and oil storage tanks. Hearing a train blow for Keyline Road, we turn our attention to the tracks. The hoppers were loaded at Caballo Rojo Mine, located about 19 miles north of here. The train is headed to Pleasant Prairie Power Plant near Kenosha, Wisconsin at Basin. High winds gust as we view a loaded train approaching the Lava Road overpass at mile 30. As loaded hoppers roll through the sweeping curve, an undercutting machine heads up the line. This piece of track maintenance equipment is used for cleaning dirt and debris out of the ballast. A ballast regulator follows the undercutter up the line. Gusting winds blow coal dust from the freshly loaded hoppers. The train just finished loading at Cordero Mine and is headed for Sergeant Bluff, Iowa, south of Council Bluffs. Before continuing north, we'll take another look at a map to acquaint ourselves with the area. This is the northerlymost portion of the Powder River Basin, and more mines are located in this section than the others. We'll be headed up to Coal Creek Junction for several run-bys, and then go on to Caballo Junction. This location is the northernmost point reached by Union Pacific trains. Most BNSF trains operating here are routed north and east through Donkey Creek Junction. At Coal Creek Junction, a spur diverges to Coal Creek Mine. This is another one of those great spots on the Orange Sub where trains labor up a 5-mile-long 1% grade. In the distance, a Union Pacific train is headed our way. Cordero Mine can be seen in the background. Heat distortion from the intense summer sun and from locomotive exhaust creates a wavy look to the air as the train grinds up grade. The modern construction of Cordero Mine appears odd. It's the fact that the two conveyor belts rise to the silo from opposite directions that gives it a different look. This train loaded at Caballo, 15 miles north. The loads are headed to White Bluff, Arkansas. Earlier in the show, we saw an empty train from White Bluff heading to Caballo. The grade has the train down to a crawl, and the power intently lugs the heavy loads toward the summit. We wait for the DPU to come by, since it'll be working hard in full throttle. Moving up the line a couple hundred yards provides a better view of Coal Creek Mine. This facility was closed during our visit because of low coal prices. Owner Arch Coal had no immediate plans to reopen. A Union Pacific train from Bel Air Mine climbs the grueling grade at Coal Creek Junction. The afternoon sun gleams off the Cordero Mine silos, but not for long. Those famous late-afternoon Rocky Mountain thunderstorms are building in the western sky. Our hopes for a sunny run-by are quickly diminishing as the train nears. A flashing yellow signal gives us a heads up to a potential meet. Looking the other direction, we see another train coming over the summit heading our way. This is a meet of trains operating between the same origin and destination points. On the upgrade, we've got the Bel Air to Joppa, Illinois train viewed earlier when it passed Reno Junction as an empty. Downhill, we've got the opposite train symbol, a Joppa to Bel Air train. Relocating to the bridge in the background, an empty on the way to Caballo Rojo comes down the hill. The train originated in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. As the empty cars roll past, we see another train headed our way. Empty meets empty, going in opposite directions. Meets like this happen with regularity on the north end of the Oren Sub. It's also common for loaded trains to meet one another here. The BNSF train originated at Dayton's Bluff in St. Paul, Minnesota, and is headed to North Antelope Mine. At Caballo Junction, a Kansas City Southern AC 4400 heads up a Jacobs Ranch to Kansas City bound train. This movement is headed compass north toward Donkey Creek and will be routed over the Black Hills Sub across Crawford Hill to Alliance, Nebraska. Caballo Junction is the northernmost point reached by Union Pacific. Loaded trains headed north to Donkey Creek encounter the steepest hill in the Powder River Basin and therefore require helpers. The climb out of the river valley is rated at 1.5%. As the Kansas City-bound train continues to labor out of the valley, we see 3 BNSF helper engines in this shot. One is on the rear of the train, one is parked at the helper base, and one is on its way to assist another train and is viewed as it crosses the bridge. The Kansas City Southern Diesel is working as a remote-controlled DPU locomotive, but the BNSF 9626 is a manned helper and will be cut off at the summit. This is the northern limits of coal mining on the Orin Sub, and 3 mines are located in close proximity to one another. The northernmost mine is Caballo, and it's located just northwest of Caballo Junction. Its large concrete silo stands tall in the Wyoming sky. A Union Pacific train is currently loading but won't depart for some time. Peeking over the top of nearby hills are the silos at Bel Air Mine, and south of that is Caballo Rojo. The 9626 soon returns from its helper duties, rolls down grade to await another call to duty. The other helper we saw crossing the bridge is now on its train, and the head end comes into view as the diesels dig in for the big climb to the summit. This train was loaded at Black Thunder and is headed to Sadler, Missouri, location of a large power plant northwest of Kansas City. Like the previous train, this one too will operate over the Black Hills Sub, passing over Crawford Hill on its way to Alliance. From there, the train will head east through the Sand Hills and on to Lincoln, Nebraska. It'll then be routed southeast and cross the Missouri River at Rouleau to enter the state of Missouri. Nearing its destination, the train will run on tracks following the river and pass through St. Joseph before arriving at the power plant. We've arrived at Donkey Creek Junction, mile 0 on the Orin Sub. The lighted signals indicate a movement is lined for the Black Hills Sub to the right. Trains can also be lined to travel on a Y to the left, west toward Gillette and to mines north of here. The train we just saw at Caballo Junction is approaching Donkey Creek. The ballast regulator will be routed toward Gillette. As the Missouri-bound train exits the Powder River, wheels on the hopper cars tap a greaser. This applies a small amount of lubrication to the flanges and reduces wear on both rails and wheels as the heavy cars pass through the curve around the Y track. This brings to a conclusion our visit to the Orange Sub and Wyoming's Powder River Basin. Now that you're familiar with the area and have an idea of what to expect, maybe you'd like to visit here too. As you've seen, there have been many changes since our last visit. The names of the railroads are different, more track has been laid, there are newer, more powerful locomotives, and new mines have been built. Traffic continues to grow, and one thing's for certain, in another 12 years, more changes will have taken place, as nothing remains constant in the railroad business. We look forward to visiting here again sometime in the future to bring you another update from the land of King Coal.